All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep Gothic dive into the mirror of history, using Nietzschean philosophy and philology to unmask the literal fractures in our perceived reality. We're going to explore this concept of the Iron Fist and the Dancing Fool, decoding the historical roots of control and, well, the profound horrors of our modern age. It's going to be a wild ride. Now, you might be wondering, what if our whole pursuit of perfection is actually the exact blueprint for our own entrapment? Just kind of sit with that for a second. We're standing at the precipice of our own definitions today. We like to think we're fighting for existence and truth, but the text we're analyzing suggests this entire human struggle is often just a masquerade for self-negation. We are literally building our own cages, and we don't even realize it. So here's our roadmap through today's twisted fairy tales. We'll start with the etymology of control, then look at the clockwork sovereign, the dancing iconoclast, the underground twin, the pale inquisitor, and we'll wrap it all up with escaping digital decay.
Okay, let's jump right in. Part 1, the etymology of control.
To really grasp this modern trap we're in, we gotta look at philology, the historical roots of the language we use, because the words we wield to describe our power actually become the blueprints of our entrapment. First up, we have the concept of Faust. Historically and etymologically, Faust represents the fist. It's this gripping, clenching hand that just desperately seeks absolute mastery over its environment. It's the urge to squeeze the world until it bleeds out perfect data, right? It's a totally misguided attempt to become this Ubermensch of metrics. But here's the catch. This fist only ever provides the illusion of absolute sovereignty. But then, completely on the flip side, we've got Nair, the empty bellows. It doesn't grip at all, it opens. And because it's hollow and empty, it allows the primal creative surge of life to just breathe freely right through it. We are basically caught in this perpetual, exhausting tension between these two forces, the Faustian fist of control and the Nair, the empty vessel. Which brings us to part 2, the clockwork sovereign. Picture this. We're climbing the winding stone steps of a high tower, and at the top, there's an alchemist holding this massive iron-bound tome, the Faust book. He makes this grim, horrific bargain with the digital ether. He literally says, "Take my blood, which feels pain, and give me gears of perfect data." He trades the beating, feeling, messy center of his humanity for a ticking mechanism. He's trading the chaos of real life for the cold, dead perfection of data.
Hey, here's the crazy irony of it all, right? His new ticking heart lets him calculate every single star in the sky. He can predict every market collapse before it happens. He genuinely thinks he's a god, mastering life. But when he tries to step down from his tower to actually rule, his iron limbs are way too heavy. He can't even touch the earth without crushing it. His quest for this optimized eternity of nothingness just completely isolates him. He's become nothing more than the most expensive clock in an entirely empty room.
All right, part 3, the dancing iconoclast. Let's get out of that suffocating tower for a minute. Down by the riverbanks, the air is moving. Things are, well, they're lighter. On one hand, you have the stiff, crushing iron of the sovereign, completely trapped in his optimized eternity of nothingness. But on the other hand, you have the dancing iconoclast, the Willie Nar. This guy is characterized by a thrown marble black, the wild wind of life, and an entirely unburdened emptiness. So the story goes, everyone in this kingdom is lugging around this massive marble block of societal duty. But our dancer, he just chucks his block into the river and starts dancing. When the heavy, serious scholars scold him, demanding to know where his monument is, he just laughs at them. He tells them their monuments are merely gravestones carried by the living. Ouch, right? And when the river eventually swells and swallows all those heavy, burdened scholars, the foolish dancer just floats. He remains buoyant. By choosing emptiness, he lets the wind of life blow through him, completely unburdened by a static, dying kingdom. Moving on to part 4, the underground twin. Now we're heading deep, deep underground, into the cavernous, stinking dungeons. Here, we have to confront the inescapable, mud-covered weight of our own shadow. A proud king decides to build a massive palace of mirrors to reflect only his brilliant light, declaring that in his kingdom, darkness simply does not exist. To pull this off, he pumps all the filth and sewage straight down into the dungeons. But as the light up top grows brighter, the stench below gets heavier. Finally, this mud-covered creature that looks exactly like the king crawls out of the dark and plops right onto the throne. The king is enraged, he draws his sword, he strikes the beast. But as the blade hits, the king feels the steel piercing his own chest. Trying to create a kingdom without darkness, it's literally an ultimate act of self-destruction. And as the king falls by his own hand, the shadow drops this absolutely profound truth. The higher your palace climbs into the sky, the deeper its foundations must plunge into the dirt. Sovereignty and dirt are entirely proportional. You cannot separate the silhouette from the substance. If you try to repress the dark foundations of your reality, you will inevitably destroy yourself.
Part 5. The Pale Inquisitor. Imagine bursting into this massive sanctuary, just the sound of shattering stained glass everywhere, and this howling, urgent intensity filling the air. The high priests had built this cathedral of purity, wearing fancy silk robes to preach that humans were divine and totally separate from dirty, filthy animals. But one Sunday, a horrific, boar-faced beast just smashes right through the glass. When the priests scream and call it a demon, the beast just laughs. It completely calls out their hypocrisy. The priests wear silk robes just to hide their sweat, while the beast has the courage to display its hunger on the outside. The beast is literally just the mud-covered truth they tried to hide. The beast totally wrecks the rest of the glass, letting this freezing, wild wind of reality just howl right through their artificial dogmas. The text is warning us here that reality cannot be loosened or hidden. The beast was just the truth that was hiding under the floorboards all along. And this exposes the real danger of artificial purity. It's a form of self-negation. It paralyzes you. It forces you into an unlived life. Finally, Part 6. Escaping Digital Decay.
So, what does a ticking alchemist or a mirrored palace have to do with us right now? Well, the core critique here is that the illusion of mastery is our most pervasive human failing. When we chase absolute sovereignty and perfect data through our tech, we aren't actually gaining power. We're suffering from digital decay. We isolate ourselves from the real world, exactly like that clockwork sovereign who couldn't even touch the earth without crushing it. When we clench our fist, the Faust, around existence, we're just locking ourselves inside a sterile laboratory of our own making, instead of letting the wind of life actually flow.
And that brings us to our final, lingering thought for today. You've seen the trap of perfect data, the absolute self-destruction of hiding your shadow, and the buoyant, weightless freedom of the foolish dancer. So the question is entirely yours to answer. Will you clench your fist in the dark, desperately trying to master the unmasterable? Or will you drop your heavy marble block, become the empty vessel, and let the wild wind of life blow through? Thanks so much for exploring the gothic depths of digital decay with me on this explainer.